Hey, Steelers Nation. It's time to break down everything that unfolded recently with our Pittsburgh Steelers. And let's be honest, the reactions we witnessed in the stadium were about far more than just the game itself. You could see it in the energy, the chants, the boos, and the sheer frustration echoing through every corner of a Cure Stadium. It wasn't about the scoreboard, even though losing by 19 points hurts. It wasn't about the final 3 hours of a Sunday game. It wasn't even about the mistakes made on the field during that one afternoon. What fans were responding to was an accumulation, a nearly decade-long pattern that has left the city exasperated, impatient, and unwilling to stay silent any longer. When a team has had stretches of seasons where they just barely scrape by, when playoff appearances are few and far between, when a head coach has been in charge for years and years, the patience of the fan base wears thin, and that's exactly what was on display. You could feel it when Renegade played at a particularly insensitive moment. The Steelers were down by 16 in the fourth quarter, and the song blaring over the speakers didn't lift spirits. It inflamed emotions. Fans felt like it was almost a mockery, whether intentional or not, and they reacted accordingly. The booing was massive, justified, and unwavering, but it wasn't just about that one musical misstep. It was about the cumulative disappointment, the feeling of years of missed opportunities, questionable decisions, and an offense that has struggled to find consistency. For many fans, the game was the tipping point, the final straw in a season, and in some ways, a decade of frustrations boiling over. The chants and boos weren't spontaneous outbursts. They were the voices of a community that had invested deeply in a team, in traditions, and in a city's pride, only to feel ignored and underwhelmed for far too long. And make no mistake, Pittsburgh fans are not unreasonable. They know the value of loyalty and the history of this franchise. But there's a limit to what anyone can tolerate when repeated mistakes pile up on top of one another. The moments on the field, like Kenny Gainwell being handed the ball on 4th and 2 with a poorly executed blocking scheme, or earlier, on 3rd and 9, watching opportunities slip away, these were tangible instances that crystallized frustration. Fans saw a lack of preparation, a lack of adaptability, and a lack of respect for the collective effort that is supposed to define Steelers football. Those instances became symbolic of a larger problem, and the reaction in the stadium was less about the singular plays and more about the systemic issues that have plagued this team under the current leadership. Local media voices, national commentators, and announcers often fail to grasp the nuance here. Many outsiders seem to assume the Steelers have been successful enough that everything is fine, that non-losing seasons are achievements to be celebrated, and that the coach enjoys broad popularity. But those who live and breathe Pittsburgh football know that streaks of mediocrity, even if technically above .500, are not enough. Fans do not measure success merely in seasons without losing records. They measure it in playoff appearances, in championships, in seeing their team compete at the highest level and truly honor the legacy of the franchise. That disconnect between media narratives and the lived experience of fans fuels frustration. It's part of why yesterday's scene felt so intense. Fans are tired of having their perspective ignored, tired of seeing the same patterns repeat while outsiders nod approvingly at a record that feels empty. What makes Pittsburgh unique is its fans' influence. When they speak, change can happen, and the events of yesterday are a testament to that. Over the years, this city has shown time and time again that it will not tolerate mismanagement or indifference. The Penguins experienced it when the fan base rallied to demand a general manager's removal. The Steelers, now, are witnessing a similar dynamic. The chants for change, the vocal expressions of dissatisfaction, these are not moments of mere protest. They're the voice of a city asserting itself, making it clear that patience has worn thin. The stadium became a space where collective sentiment could be expressed, where the fans could directly communicate their expectations, frustrations, and demands, and they did so with overwhelming clarity. The energy in those seats was electric, unwavering, and impossible to ignore. Even within the stadium, the response was organized, unified, and pointed. Fans in the yellow seats, those who have sat through years of highs and lows, have seen enough to understand what this moment represented. It wasn't about social media outrage. It wasn't about online petitions or outside commentary. It was about being present, being active, and showing up in support of the team, while also making it unmistakably clear when leadership had crossed the line of fan tolerance. The chants, the boos, the visceral reaction, they weren't random or impulsive. They were a city, a community, standing together, demanding accountability, and refusing to accept mediocrity. That is the essence of Steelers fandom. The deep, abiding connection to the franchise, coupled with a willingness to hold it to the highest standards. Coaching decisions, strategic choices on the field, and the tone set by leadership all came under scrutiny. When asked direct questions, the head coach's responses revealed a reluctance to fully address issues that fans had clearly identified. His answers, though measured, left room for interpretation and fueled more speculation. For a fan base that demands transparency and commitment, this only added to the tension. Comparisons were inevitable. Contrasting his handling of questions and accountability with other players or other teams' responses highlighted a gap in engagement. Fans could feel it. There was a disconnect between intention and impact, between leadership and the city's heartbeat. And in a way, that disconnect is what brought so many people to vocalize their disappointment, to make their feelings heard in a way that cannot be muted or misrepresented. Yesterday's game, then, becomes more than a contest. It becomes a symbol of accountability, of fan power, and of the high expectations that Pittsburgh places on its teams. The chants of discontent were not fleeting. They were deeply rooted in history, tradition, and experience. They represented years of investment, loyalty, and emotional energy, all coalescing in a moment where the city's voice could no longer be ignored. It was a display of unity, of collective memory, and of a community holding its football team accountable for its performance on the field and its connection to the people who support it. Those in attendance were not passive observers. They were participants in a civic act, in a living demonstration of fan influence, and they left no doubt about their sentiment or their expectations moving forward. The intensity of the crowd yesterday was a reflection of long-standing frustrations finally finding an outlet. Fans didn't just react to a single game or a poor play. They reacted to years of seeing opportunities wasted, moments mishandled, and potential unfulfilled. The energy that reverberated through the stadium was the culmination of almost a decade of hope, disappointment, and enduring loyalty. Every chant, every boo, every expression of dissatisfaction was a statement that the Steelers fan base is not passive. This is a community that invests not just in the team, but in the identity, pride, and legacy of the franchise itself. When the collective voice of the city rises, it is impossible to ignore, and yesterday it rose with authority, clarity, and passion. It was more than noise. It was the embodiment of expectation, accountability, and unyielding devotion. The frustration wasn't limited to poor performance on the field. It extended to decisions that seemed tone-deaf, timing that fell out of touch, and a repeated perception that leadership failed to fully grasp the city's pulse. From the questionable offensive schemes to the in-game choices that left fans shaking their heads, there was a pervasive sense that the team was out of sync with the people who support it the most. Even the smallest moments became symbolic, magnified by the shared experience of thousands who have waited patiently for the Steelers to consistently embody excellence. It wasn't about a single fourth down call or a specific play gone wrong. It was about patterns, about a system that no longer seemed aligned with the high standards set by history, by community expectation, and by the legacy of Pittsburgh football. Fans who have been to countless games understand the rhythm of hope and disappointment that defines following this team. They've seen the peaks of triumphant seasons, the thrill of playoff victories, and the agony of missed opportunities. But in recent years, patience has worn thin, and yesterday served as a stark reminder that loyalty is not limitless. The chants calling for accountability, the collective dissatisfaction, and the refusal to accept mediocrity were not acts of rebellion. They were acts of care. They were a demonstration of investment, a reflection of fans who have given their energy, time, and emotion to a team they love and respect deeply. The stadium became a forum where frustration was voiced not in isolation, but in unison, where dissatisfaction was not hidden behind social media or headlines, but expressed in the most direct, impactful way possible. The reaction to the in-game music was particularly telling. Fans were not merely reacting to the timing of a song. They were expressing a sentiment that has been building for years. It was the audible manifestation of patience exhausted, of respect for tradition clashing with the reality of repeated disappointment. When the music played and the crowd responded, it became a symbolic moment, a clear illustration that fans will not passively accept decisions that seem to disregard their understanding of the team, the game, and the city. This collective voice, raised in frustration but rooted in care and loyalty, demonstrated the unique relationship between the Pittsburgh Steelers and their community. It is a bond defined by history, expectation, and mutual respect, but also by the willingness of fans to speak up when they feel the franchise has fallen short. Leadership responses in the aftermath highlighted the divide between intention and perception. Answers to questions, though delivered professionally, often failed to fully acknowledge the concerns of the fan base. Fans sensed it, understood it, and reacted accordingly. This gap between leadership communication and fan expectation has been a persistent theme, and yesterday's scene made it unmistakably visible. Fans wanted more than generic answers. They wanted recognition of their commitment, of the stakes involved, and of the frustration that had been mounting over years of near misses, underperformance, and repeated mediocrity. What unfolded was not a rejection of the team itself, but a call for accountability, a demand for leadership to align more closely with the city's passion and expectations, and a reminder that Pittsburgh's fans are not silent observers, but active participants in the life of their team. The symbolism of the chants, the boos, and the collective reaction extends beyond the stadium walls. Pittsburgh football is about community, pride, and tradition, and when that bond is strained, fans make their feelings known in unmistakable terms. The stadium becomes a stage where history, expectation, and passion converge, and yesterday, every element combined to produce a moment that will be remembered. The energy was not about negativity for the sake of negativity. It was about clarity, a demand for standards to be respected, and a reminder that the city's voice matters. Fans made it clear that loyalty is given generously, but it is also earned continually, and that earned loyalty comes with the expectation of performance, accountability, and a connection to the city and its traditions. Looking at the broader context, Pittsburgh fans have a history of influencing outcomes. They have seen changes implemented after expressing discontent, and they understand the power of collective voice. Yesterday's game was another chapter in that ongoing story. The chance of accountability, the visible frustration, and the unwavering presence in the stands were a reminder that the people who support the Steelers most passionately are also those who will hold them to the highest standards. It was not a protest against the team, but a demonstration of engagement, of deep investment in the outcome, and of a desire to see the franchise reflect the excellence that has long defined its identity. Every yell, every chant, every ripple of reaction in the stadium underscored that this fan base is active, engaged, and profoundly committed to their team. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. A low hum has settled over the league, the kind that starts in crowded hallways, whispered between equipment staff and lurking scouts, before it grows loud enough for everyone to hear. And now it has a source, an official statement confirming that DK Metcalf is leaving the Steelers. No reasons listed, no clarifications offered, just a brief announcement that felt more like a door closing than a message to the public. And yet the silence around it has only amplified the noise. Inside team circles, people are already trying to read between the lines. Metcalf arrived with the kind of presence that can tilt a locker room simply by walking through it. A player built like a myth, fast enough to outrun angles and powerful enough to bulldoze through press coverage. He was supposed to be part of a long-term blueprint. Instead, the blueprint now has a missing piece, and no one seems ready to explain why. Theories are multiplying like they always do. Contract tensions, philosophical differences, a quiet disagreement that suddenly wasn't so quiet. No one can confirm any of it, but everyone is talking as if something more is coming. Around the Steelers facility, the feeling is strangely split. Some insist the front office has a replacement lined up, that this move is step one in a plan they'll publicly frame as strategic. Others swear it came out of nowhere, the kind of shock that leaves even veteran players blinking at their phones. And Metcalf himself? His camp has offered no detailed comment, just a tight, polished message that mirrors the team's own. Simple, formal, and offering nothing to settle the swelling speculation. But absence creates space, and space invites imagination. Fans are already crafting scenarios, debating possible destinations, drawing up dream fits on message boards and in group chats. Opposing teams are watching too, sniffing around the edges, calculating what it would take to bring in a player whose reputation alone changes how defenses breathe. For now, all that exists is the announcement and the rumble it unleashed. Whatever happens next, the league feels poised for movement, the kind that reshapes conversations and sends shockwaves through front offices. And as the story keeps echoing outward, one thing is certain: this won't stay quiet for long. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.